You are now tuned in to the Storm Tracker podcast.
Welcome back to the Storm Tracker podcast. I'm Marcus Benjamin, representing for CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals.com network. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all platforms, and also make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, live from Canes County. Today, I've got Steve Kraning, also known as Steve-O, representing from Raw, Miami, one of the premier 7-on-7 teams in South Florida, really nationally. And he also provides the film review on CanesCounty.com. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh yeah, well, pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me, fam. It's UF week. We're 3 days away at the time of going live now, so it's time to put up or shut up. And I think everybody's juiced up, ready to go. I know we've seen the guys at practice. They look really good. That when you go into them, I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. He's like, "Isn't that what we say every year?" I was like, "Yeah, we say that every year, but we have to force ourselves to believe certain positions. For a long time, we've been saying we're going to be so good because we believe in like our receivers. Of course, we've always had good receivers. Oh yeah, we always had good defensive backs. Doesn't mean we were winning games because we didn't have the good old linemen and good D linemen. We have them boys now, so it's a lot easier. It's just crazy this time around. I don't think I've been going to practice for a couple of years here and there, and I don't think I've ever seen a roster look like that. But I visited like several schools while they were practicing, us taking kids on visits, and that's what those schools look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's kind of ODing on the Kool-Aid this year. Yeah, people drink that Kool-Aid every year, but this year people are drinking basically a whole pitcher.
Got a little bit more sugar to it.
Yeah, exactly. So something's in that Kool-Aid.
A little sweeter.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, yeah, big game, season opener against UF. I think it's Miami's biggest rivalry, just because of the amount of history that this rivalry has. A lot of people don't realize that this is the longest standing rivalry for the Miami Hurricanes. It's just that the Florida Gators didn't play the Miami Hurricanes for a few years in the 90s. And, Steve Spurrier actually elected not to play the Miami Hurricanes because if he felt like it would be a little too much for him and his team at the time. So the rivalry has taken a break for a minute. We've seen some games here and there. We saw them in the Sugar Bowl in 2000. They also played Miami a couple of times in the early 2000s. Last time it was 2013, I believe. No, it was 2019. You're right. The last time the Hurricane won was 2013. So they played a few times, but now it's back. Everyone's excited to really kind of see what this Miami Hurricanes team will do against the Florida Gators out of the SEC. Miami's a 2.5-point favorite. So I kind of wanted to just first we'll break down some matchups in this game. But before we get to that, I just kind of want to get your take on the rivalry yourself. Like, what's your best memory from this rivalry, even though there's not that many?
Yeah, there's not that many. I'm a younger Canes fan. I'm 28, but I remember when Devin Hester ran that that block kick return back. I was watching on TV. We were all going crazy. But I was at that game. We mentioned briefly the 2013 game. Tracy Howard with the pick, Philip Dorsett going deep over the top, Herb Waters with the Tony toe tap in the end zone. It was a perfect grab. So that's got to definitely be one of mine. It was a whiteout that game as well. If Canes fans that were there, I bet you remember because we were sweating like hell and we were in white, but we won. So I mean that's got to be towards the top just because we haven't really played them as much. I mean people do. I was taught. I had like Canes history lessons in my family, so I know Florida. I think it's like 10 years more than Florida State or whatever the gap or something like that within that. But we just play Florida State every year, so obviously fans think that's the biggest rivalry. But versus the University of Florida, I mean, I think you have to win that game. I view it as the same as Florida State because every reason why you say you got to beat Florida State, you could say the exact same thing for Florida. Who you think we were battling these guys for recruits for? Who you think we're battling? I mean, who are we battling? Bryce Fitzgerald for? FSU and UF. Who are we battling for stubs? FSU and UF. I mean, we're gonna bump heads on the recruiting. I mean, we just went and got Pringle out of Armwood. Guess what? That's Gator country. They don't like that. Like that's who we recruit against. Like you can't go over there and lose because then they're going to be able to use that against you. While they were in those living rooms, and then it's hard to tell a guy this if a guy could just pull up, saying, or if the kid was at the game damn self, so yeah, I think it's a huge rivalry and a must-win game. I mean, I put it at the same level as Florida State. Anytime Florida's on the schedule, I mean, that's a must-win game.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh Moore is another one that Miami kind of battled for with Florida, and Ben Hanks is another one where it's a Miami Florida battle as well. But those battles are still going on, so it's not over until it is signing day. Just to kind of add my 2 cents as far as my favorite moment in the rivalry, it's got to be the moment where Brock Berlin engineered a comeback against the Gators in the Orange Bowl. That game was absolutely amazing. For them to kind of come back in that game, they were down big, and Brock Berlin, of all quarterbacks, for me to mention, Brock Berlin was the one who kind of engineered a comeback to beat the Gators in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, KB, he had two tutties in that one, and that comeback from the third quarter. The two unlikely heroes that you hear about, that you would think about, Brock Berlin and KB saving the game versus Dave versus Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's dive into this matchup right here, man. A lot of great matchups kind of across the board when you look up and down each roster here. But when you see the different matchups in this game, Steve-O, which matchup really kind of concerns you the most going into Saturday's matchup?
I can't believe I'm forgetting his name, but they have a huge defensive tackle who's like, he's really big.
Tyree Sapp?
Yeah. No. He's from St. Thomas. I know him. That's a local guy. I wanted him. That's another recruiting battle. Right. He's going to be a good player for them. But the only really position I haven't seen that I know for sure is, center. Because Carpenter was, he's been, out when I went, or he's doing his own thing. I don't know what, what's going on. But no, that's not true. He was in the scrimmage, but I didn't get a chance to see him. So my thing is, I saw everybody else. I'm very comfortable with our receiving core. I'm very comfortable with our defensive back core. There's a little bit of uncertainty at safety. I think third-year players in that room look really good, and Canes fans just haven't got a chance to see him. If you look at Jaden Harris in person, you're like, oh my God. This guy, it looks like a stud. I mean, you see Markeith Williams in person, and you're like, damn, this is that guy they said he couldn't put on no weight. You're like, oh, wow, he looks actually really good. Yeah, I'm not as worried. But I'm going to say right now center, just because that's the only thing we haven't seen. And I think Matt Lee, now he just made an NFL roster. He's the top, on the top 53. He kind of, the bar is really high. So I'm just really more interested to see what goes on at center. That's the matchup I'm most interested in. I think, they have some good depth on D-line. I just want to see how that goes because it's more than just if Carpenter gets beat on a block or if Carpenter misses assignment. I'm looking at it as, the center controls the whole offensive line, so I missed calls, missed protections, things like that. That's what I'm looking for to see how the game, operates in the trenches because Matt Lee was probably one of the best I've ever seen. He was at Miami. He was really good. He reminds me of when Linder. It's like the last guy you could say controlled the entire offensive line. So I mean that's what I would be looking for. The matchup that concerns me the most, Florida's D tackles. Going in the interior versus Matt Lee. I mean, with Matt Lee gone, with Carpenter, and there's going to be a new guy starting at guard. We don't know if it's going to be Sampson. We don't know if it's going to be McCoy. It could be somebody else that nobody's even mentioned. So that's basically the interior. So that's what I'm looking for most.
Yeah, that left guard position is very interesting to see who is going to show up on that roster on game day. Cristobal, he likes to keep things close to the vest when it comes to the depth chart and who's starting or whatnot. But it'll be very interesting to see if it is indeed Matt McCoy, if it's Samson Okunlola, if it's Tommy Kinsler, or if it's Markel Bell. Who knows?
Ryan
That
Rodriguez.
Ryan Rodriguez or Cristobal, the nephew of Cristobal. It could be any of those guys. So we'll see who actually shows up on the roster on that particular day. But when you kind of look at these matchups again, I mean, as far as like even matchups, like these teams, I think Miami has superior talent than Florida going into this game. I think just top to bottom. When you go quarterback, I go Miami. You go running back, I go Miami. You go offensive line, I go Miami. Tight end, Miami. I mean, I think Miami's pretty much the advantage almost across the board here. But what position group do you think it's kind of even at, in your opinion?
I would probably honestly, if you had to say, hey, these are probably the two closest positions to each other. It could have been another position, but Florida kind of fell off a little bit at running back. I do like their starter. I do think Damian Martinez is better, but Montreal Johnson is a good player. So give him credit there. But if I had to go just pound for pound, I think our linebacker room took a step forward, too much forward for me to compare Florida's linebacker room to them. So, I mean, I would probably say safety room because they're going to be dependent on some guys that, are young, and they're going to be dependent on guys who've been around a little bit but didn't play much because they had some departures at safety. I think other guy went to Pitt, another one. So, that's honestly where I would go, just because where they're going, they have a guy I forget his name, 14. I can't believe I'm forgetting the names right now. But he's their safety, goes over the top. He plays a little bit in the nickel. He's going to have a hard day versus X. But that's kind of their niche. He's the guy who plays in the nickel, plays over the top. That's their dude. And then they're going to be relying on, some veterans that, they gotten their feet wet a little bit, but they haven't started in, long term. And, then a freak freshman, because they do have, the highly rated freshman safety or whatever. I forget his name again, but he's a Florida guy. I don't remember these guys' names. So unless they make a play, I'll tell you, Marcus, unless they make a play on us, I ain't remembering their name, but that's probably what I would go with. The safety position.
I got Jordan Castile as number 14. If that's what.
Jordan Castile. There you go. He's a good player. He's a good player. He's gonna have a hard day with X. It's just a tough cover for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect the X to eat in this game. I also expect Elijah Arroyo to also eat in this game. And it feels like Miami should dominate at certain positions. When you look at this game top to bottom, like I know what it is for me, to be honest. And it's probably the same for you. But what position do you think Miami just straight up dominates when it comes to position?
Anybody who's seen the Miami Hurricanes football practice are going to immediately say defensive line. I mean,
right.
We are 9 deep at defensive line before you count 3 5-star freshmen. Before you count Armando Blunt. I guess you can count Justin Scott because he's kind of getting up there closer. And then you got Lightfoot. Bro, you got it's so deep on defensive line. You literally have Tyler Barron, who's being touted as, a high draft pick, a top 30 pick, or top 32 pick because they say first round. Ruben Bain, we all know who Ruben Bain is. He's not just a freshman All-American, he's an All-American. Then you got on the outside, opposite, Alston, who is – if you see Alston, he's probably one of the more, like, oh, my God, type of guys you see. And then you remember, like, okay, he's the transfer from Marshall. I think he's going to be better than anybody thought because he looks really –
I agree.
He's one of those guys that you see in person. You're like, oh, he's going to be above our expectations because, I mean, that was my first time seeing him. And he looked good. He has just like a different move set, man. Like you could tell he's been in college a long time, bro. He can combat, Yeah, the guys on offensive line are well coached at Miami, yo. So you're not gonna win a lot of reps on your first move. Like you gotta have a counter. He looked like he got it. He looked good. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, defensive line. I'm just at D ends. We had defensive tackle. I like Clark. I like Cook. They bring some stability, some athleticism to the position. Obviously, Barrow is the big time transfer. There's 3 transfers at the position. So now we have some, seniority in that room. And a lot of guys, this is their last ride, their last go round. 3 of those guys that we just mentioned. Then we got the young buck, Justin Scott, doing what a 5-star defensive tackle is going to do. I'm not going to, advocate that defensive lineman is easier to play than offensive line, but I just truly believe it. Hey, this year gap, this year this is what you got to do. You can simplify it. You got to, you got 2 senior a junior and a senior linebacker behind him who could tap him on the ass and tell him to scoot over if anything. So he's already 6'5", 3-something plus. So Justin Scott, that defensive line, Canes fan. I'm sorry if I rambled about it, but I mean I'm missing guys. Moten looks super good. A lot of these 3rd-year players. If you were in that 2022 class and you are still in Miami Hurricane, you look good. I'm talking about Marquis, talking about Jaden already. Horton, Moten, a lot of these guys. Josh Horton looking good. I mean, we are so deep on defensive line that we could just go full speed for 4 quarters straight. I don't think people understand the benefits of that. Where if Bain could just literally sit out just for 1 play, catch his breath, and a guy can go over there and get a pressure or a sack, or a TFL, and then we put Bain back in, or we let him get a couple plays and put Bain back in, whatever the case is. You don't understand the luxury that is to have. There is multiple, first-round picks on this defensive line. Like we have young bucks. Like a lot of people don't talk about Coleman Connaughton until obviously, but man, he looks really good. I mean, in my opinion, I thought that's why Jaden Wayne transferred. I think Coleman Connaughton is going to be a dude for us, and that's going to be a guy who is not going to have to be rushed out there on the field. See, we're so deep at defensive line. I don't want to ramble. That's a matchup we have to dominate on. If we don't dominate that matchup, everybody gonna be looking at Coach JT and Coach Joe, because that gotta happen. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say it has to be NCAA domination like a video game, but it has to be noticeable that they can't run the ball, or it's hard running, and hey, anytime they gotta throw the ball, you gotta get that ball out your hand quick, even if it's not a lot of sacks. Because Mertz, I give him credit. He'll take. I forgot who Malinois said the quote. I remember you put it on. You said Malinois said it right, that he'll take a sack before he throws a pick.
Yeah, I tweeted that out.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. He'll get rid of that ball before he takes a sack. He's been in college 5-6 years, man. He's getting rid of that ball. He's gonna fall harmlessly on the turf. So even if the sacks aren't what people think, I just need to see that pass rush rate needs to be high, needs to affect the quarterback, needs to affect his launch point, needs to affect everything, the timing, everything. If it doesn't have signs of that in all 4 quarters, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of guys, but you still didn't mention all of them. You didn't mention Tyler Barron, which I think is going to be a dog. I think he's going to be right there in the rotation as well. And you didn't mention Akeem Mesidor as well. Like this line is just ridiculously deep, and it would be an absolute shock to me if Miami didn't at least get 3 sacks in this game. At least, it would be an absolute shock to me, to be honest, because especially from what I've seen from Graham Mertz over the past few years. I mean, I'm on the side of Kiko, where he says that he'll take a sack before he throws a pick, and I see that. He kind of, he'll pat the ball, and then he'll take that sack. I mean, he's a senior now, so you got to think that he's a little bit more seasoned, and he'll kind of see the rush coming. But this rush is not stopping. This rush is going to keep coming for 4 quarters because it's so deep. It's 8, 9 guys legitimately deep. I mean, there's guys who probably could start at other places that probably won't get a ton of snaps in this game. So I'm excited to really kind of see them really prove just how much they've been talking about themselves in this offseason. Simeon Barrow said himself, he was like, I think this is the best defensive line in the country. So if you are, kind of bold enough to say that type of statement, then that has to show up on the field on Saturday against Miami's biggest rival in the swamp. So I also do want to talk a little wide receiver DB. That's more your specialty, Steve-O, as far as matchups are concerned. So when you look at wide receiver and defensive back with these two teams, what is the matchup that you just can't wait, that you are just chopping at the bit, just can't wait to see this on Saturday?
Yes, it's going to be 3-on-3 crime because we already talked about the matchup in the slot with X. On the outside, obviously I wouldn't fault them for putting them on Sam Brown, but they're most likely going to put Jason Marshall on Jacoby George. I think that just makes the most sense for them. Is it going to work? No, it's not. It's going to be very, very good. I personally think Jason Marshall, was really good talent. I mean, definitely better than the other one, Chris Henderson, that went to Florida. But where he struggles at is the receivers with that sauce. He could run down with you if you're just trying to speed release and go downfield. He'll be hip to hip with you. He's a good athlete. He could turn around and bat the ball down. Has a couple of interceptions. He's not terrible. I was there when he played Romello Brinson at Miami Northwestern. I seen what releases and sauce and hesitation and suddenness can do to somebody. And I'm an avid believer of Jacoby's abilities in those fields. I've seen him work on it for, a long time. And he works on it with, somebody I really trust in that industry. It's going to be a nice matchup. I think Cam Ward is very, very excited. I think Jacoby George is going to be the deep threat of the offense. I understand Sam Brown's probably the fastest of all of them, but I definitely think Jacoby's going to be, the guy making the most one-on-one plays downfield. And it starts Saturday. And it's going to be kick-started if they play man coverage.
Awesome. Definitely looking forward to that. But let's flip it over to the other side of the football. I kind of want to talk about Daryl Porter, man. Daryl Porter has a really great opportunity to really kind of show what he's capable of and really kind of continue from the success from last season. They got a really talented receiver in Eugene Wilson. First off, do you think that he'll follow Eugene Wilson? That usually hasn't happened in recent years where a DB is following a certain receiver. Do you think he'll stay on a certain side? And when he is matched up with Wilson, what do you think happens?
I mean, I would love for them to do that. As a Canes fan, I don't think we've had a corner follow since Tracy, Brandon McGee days. I don't think we just haven't had that over the years of different corners. We've had good guys too. But I would love to see it. I don't even think, he's a freshman All-American. I don't think he deserves to have DP follow him, in my opinion. But, he's good. I'm not going to downplay him. But his quarterback, he hasn't had over 100-yard game, and he hasn't had a play over 30 yards. It's not going to happen Saturday. Some of that is his quarterback. I'm not going to lie. Graham Mertz is more of a game manager than a risk taker. So, if he had a gunslinger, if he had TVD throwing him the ball, he probably would have more stats. If he had Cam Ward throwing the ball, he probably have a lot more stats. So I'm not going to discredit him and go like that. But I don't see him creating much separation from Daryl Porter because, he didn't create much separation. I think he's an incredible talent, and he's going to grow. He's going to be now a sophomore. He has the freshman year under his belt. Is he going to be better than last year? I would naturally just be inclined to think so. But I think Daryl's better than last year, and I would bet on him all day. So I would love to see him follow him just to see it be Strauss, but I don't think they do that because how much they love Jadeus and Damari. I don't think you have to follow. You don't have to follow him. Okay, you want to come over here on this side, Damari. Have you seen Damari lately, right?
Yeah.
Come get bullied over here. And you want to go over there and be all cute. Daryl's got the footwork for anybody. Ain't nobody shaking Daryl at the line of scrimmage. The stupid patient, a trait that a young freshman who's emerging right now in OJ, that's the word you hear about him is patience at the line of scrimmage. Because him and Daryl are athletes, bro. They're not scared within that first 5 yards to just mirror you. You know what I'm saying? They're not thinking of anything else other than locking in. They're just great man corner. So I'm really not worried about that matchup at all. And honestly, on either side of the ball, I don't feel the need for Daryl to have to travel. I mean, yeah, I would love it just to say, he just wants to say it and they're just gonna do it for draft stock, and stuff like that. But I don't think you need to, man. I would not give him that much respect, bro. He doesn't put fear in my heart to that point where I don't think Jadaeus or Damari can cover him. Like I just don't feel that way.
Gotcha. Just kind of based on what you're saying, it sounds like you think Damari's going to be the other corner, and Jadias Richards likely going to be the nickel corner. You think comes Saturday?
I think they both. I think come Saturday, they both play both. I mean, from what I've seen in practice, they both were playing both. You saw guys rotate different, but Damari he looked huge, man. He looked like he could hold up in that and inside. Uh, I don't know which when they start at, but I know for sure you'll probably see them both get different snaps because they have I seen Damari go out and they put Mish in the slot. Damari scoots outside. They have a lot of formations and go. So I don't know. Honestly I would bet Jadias will be outside first. For what
Okay.
and then but I think Damari definitely gets snaps outside. But again, and then Eugene Wilson, they call him Trey or whatever. He plays a lot in the slot too. That's how he kind of gets those quick little passes underneath. But yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. I don't think we should make DP travel other than they just want to say that he did it and then like the results after it.
Gotcha. One last depth chart question here. I know Mish is a player who will play that nickel as well. So if he plays that nickel and you got Jaden Harris as one of the safeties, who do you think plays that other safety spot?
I'm gonna say Jaden Harris. I
No,
think
but the other. I mean, Jaden Harris. I'm assuming is going to be one of them. Who's going to be the other one? If Mish plays nickel.
yeah, Mish is gonna definitely play over the top. I think it started off, but when Mish goes to nickel, I want to say Markeith, man. I really do. I really do. I would say Markeith.
Okay.
There was a comment said Zaquan's definitely coming along, but there was a comment that they were made after practice in media about the numbers of interceptions in camp, and I want people to know I loved Markeith in high school. I knew he was gonna have to put on weight. Obviously, that wrist injury coming in, so he couldn't really lift a lot. So his development body wise was slowed. So that became the whole thing. Oh, he can't put on weight. Oh, he can't do this. Yo, he is a ball hawk. He is a ball hawk. He could pick off any quarterback on our roster if you slipping.
Yeah.
Because he got really nice range, man. He got them long arms that almost touch his knees.
Yeah, he does.
He got super long arms, yo. So when he think he don't got it, he got it. Like I would say Markeith, to be honest with you. I like the way a lot of our third year guys look under Mario. They look like holy shit. Like they've been doing more than just lifting over here, because every third year guy you see across the board, and as Cooper, any third year guy you point out, you want Wesley Besaint, everybody's like, oh my God, he looks like a real NFL linebacker now. Yeah. This is third year in this program, and all of those guys look like NFL players, body-wise.
Awesome. Really excited to see, who is out there defensive back-wise. Should be very, very intriguing to see who gets the most snaps out of all 5 positions. All right, here we go, Steve-O. Prediction time, baby. When it's all said and done, when it's 7:30 Saturday evening in Gainesville, what's that scoreboard going to look like?
I'm going to say, I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm going to say 42-17. I think we roll. I think we roll. Like, I honestly, and I've
been asking a lot of people about the score. That is the highest score I've heard so far. But go ahead.
I think we have insane offensive firepower. Unless Cam Ward goes out there and issues the bed, I think we put up 40, in my opinion. I mean,
wow.
I'm sorry, bro, but dog, we are 6 deep at receiver. We are 5 deep at running back that we could literally just hand the ball off to. We are 3 deep at offensive line that you're comfortable with. We're 3 deep at tight end. Riley Williams, we didn't even talk about Riley Williams. He's probably the best all-around tight end on the team, and he's been going crazy in camp. And we talked about Arroyo. He's been a one-handed catch machine. I was walking into the IPF, out the IPF, and he's just running right at us in the corner route, and he just snagged it like one hand, and I'm like, yep, that was very casual. He looking confident, he looking good. You're out here running around with no knee brace, like moving, cutting, accelerating, stopping, decelerating. Man, yeah, I don't think they have enough to stop us. I mean, unless we come out here and just lay an egg, we should put up 40. And I think Coach Cristobal, excuse me, it wants to put that type of message out there, just because it is the type of game that recruits wise. We have 2026 recruits we're battling them for. It's not even just 2025s. If you're just worried about this season, man, it's 26s you worried about, 27s you worried. We play Florida again one more time next year. Then it's going to be a long time. We're going to be battling until we play them again, unless obviously conference realignment and stuff. But we're not going to get that road. We beat Florida twice, and then we don't play them for another decade. Guess what we saying for the next decade? It don't matter who the coach is, man. Or at least to get this regime out of there. Even if they get this regime out of there after this year, we'll start the next regime off with an L. Back to back. So I was gonna say 38-17, but I had to go 42. Just because I thought to myself, man, I think Coach Mario definitely wants to make this a statement game. And from what everybody's been told and what everybody's been Coach Dawson's going to be able to not put his foot off the gas. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Let's see it, baby. I'm a believer, but I need to be a seer.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, man. I think I'm jaded because of the last few years and the last time Miami played Florida, kind of what happened. Like, so it's hard for me to kind of predict such a huge margin like that. I do think the Hurricanes win the game. I do feel like top to bottom, they just have more talent, and I think Cam Ward is going to be the difference maker here. I think he is going to excel on third down, something that Tyler Van Dyke could not do last year. Really kind of just make plays on third down and just extend drives. And I think Cam Ward is going to be an extend drive machine, and, even if they don't get into the end zone, I feel like they'll get into field goal range and Borregales is going to knock them through. So I think this game is a little bit lower scoring. I think it's more of a 24, 16 type of game, because, that environment is going to be, they're going to want to make sure they're not making mistakes, and I think both teams are going to come out, I think, rather conservative, or rather, they're going to see, like, if they can control the line of scrimmage. Now, if Miami just starts blowing them off the ball, off rip, then yeah, it probably will be like a 42-17 type of game. But I think the adrenaline is going to be pumping for Florida, and all those Gator fans and that crowd is going to kind of help juice them for that first quarter or two. But I think Miami's depth is just going to wear them out towards the end of the game, and that pass rush is just going to start to wear on Graham Mertz, because if they get down, then these guys are just going to be able to pin their ears back and just let it loose. What does worry me a little bit is that maybe Miami is dominating that line too much. You know what I'm saying? Where they're just all the way in the backfield, and then boom, they just hit a quick screen, and that quick screen goes for like 20-30 yards.
It's gonna happen. Happen.
So they can hopefully they don't over pursue so much, because they're dominating so much. So those quick screens.
Well, Mal, I know you got that one on. You got that stick right now, fam. That's what we call that one. You got the Uno. You got the stick. You got that stick on, fam. Them linemen doing their job. They getting after the quarterback. Your job is anything else after that. So they want to screen, fam. Oh, okay. You better get over there and make that tackle, because they will go for a lot. And it happens against every great defensive line. I mean, you'll be a silly offensive coordinator if you don't try to dial some of those up. Running back screen, tunnel screen, maybe bubble, whatever you call, it'll be silly. And you probably wouldn't even be coaching at this level if you don't try that, versus a dominant defensive line. That's just common sense. So we got to definitely be on the lookout for that.
For sure. It's definitely going to be exciting on Saturday. I'm excited, man. We are both going to Gainesville, so we'll probably see each other up there and connect. I'm going to be in the Swamp for the first time, so I'm really excited to kind of experience that. and see, what happens. I tell you what, the loser of this game is going to be really, really sad here. I tell
I'm thankful it's not gonna be us because I'm driving back same night. So I'm just thankful it's not gonna be us.
We shall see. We shall see. That's going to wrap it up for the Storm Tracker podcast. Once again, my guy Steve-O joining me for this edition where we talked a little bit about the matchups between Miami and Florida. Thanks again for joining me, my guy.
No, all day, fam. And go Canes. Appreciate you having me. And yeah, we'll definitely link up there. And it's a big one.
Yeah, it definitely is a big one for sure. Like I said, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Storm Tracker podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, live from Canes County, and also subscribe to this podcast, the Storm Tracker podcast, on all platforms. Most importantly, subscribe to the website, canescounty.com, for free. Use the promo code Miami30. Until the next episode.